We've ranked the stadiums of several leagues in the past, but never a multinational championship. So I expect this one to be even more controversial, but that's okay. Just remember that I am unbiased, and a buffoon that shouldn't be taken seriously. So here are the Champions League stadiums ranked. Stadion Maximir. I think Zagreb supporters wouldn't be too surprised by this placing. Even if you disregard the damage it received in a recent earthquake, the fans are still far from the field and there's still no covered seating. One thing going for it is the steepness of the stands, but even that's not everybody's cup of tea. Stadio Diego Armando Maradona doesn't quite live up to its name. But it has improved in recent years, most notably the change in seats that now reflects the club's colours. But it does have the dreaded running track, and as kids these days say, tracks are whack. I think they said that. Okay, we've got rid of the tracks, but we still have to deal with some crap. Okay, that's a bit much, but there is a reason that the club have been looking to replace Jan Stadion for quite some time. It's basic, it's dated, it's kinda ugly. At the very least, you would hope that the pommes frites are top notch given that it's in Belgium, but sliced potatoes cooked in oil are small fry. Camp Nou. Yes, it's the biggest stadium in Europe, but it's far from the best. The exterior is a tad dull. It's also a bit rough around the edges. There's a reason they so desperately want it renovated. But I don't want to discredit it too much, this triple-tiered behemoth is still a sight to behold. Estadio Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan. Yeah, it's a little dated in some respects, but it has still been kept in decent condition. It also has a little bit of character, especially the exterior that not only lights up at night, but has a nice mural. Other than that, it's pretty much what you'd call a typical Spanish football stadium. Dusan Arena. The bright colours mightn't be for everyone. In fact, from this angle, the exterior looks like the flag of a particular evil empire. But I think the stadium looks pretty good overall. The older main stand works well with the rest of the stadium, which was only built in the last decade or so. San Siro. Similar to Camp Nou, it's iconic, historic, huge, but it isn't in the best of shape. So much so that the capacity had to be reduced for safety reasons, just like in Zagreb. But the design is one of a kind, particularly that roof. It lets in plenty of light and looks pretty good in the process. There are plans to demolish it, but I think the people of Milan will riot. Sami Office Stadium. If you're not all that familiar with European football, you might be puzzled by the fact that an Israeli team is in a European competition. But Israel borders Lebanon, and on a clear day you can see Lebanon from Cyprus, and Cyprus is in Europe. So, technically Israel is in Europe, as a fact. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of that gold exterior. It ironically looks cheap, but the interior looks perfectly fine. Deutsche Bank Park. From the outside, it's certainly not one of the more exciting designs going round, but it does have a few cool features. The fabric retractable roof as well as the center-hung video board aren't all that common, and the newly installed seats are looking pretty good. Buy Arena. That has to be the most seamless naming rights sponsor of any stadium. I mean, they've literally combined the two words as Germans are known to do. It's a solid stadium with a unique design, particularly the unusual seating layout. It's one of the few places where the skyboxes are not along the sidelines. Stadion Wojska Polskiego. No Polish team is in the group stage, but Poland has helped their Ukrainian brethren once more, by lending them a stadium. A fine stadium at that. I always like it when a remnant of an older stadium is incorporated into a new one. That's the case here with these old walls. The rest is a solid modern stadium. Red Bull Arena. There are a few Red Bull arenas, but Salzburg is the actual home of Red Bull, more or less. So that means that this one Well, it doesn't mean anything. I don't know why I even brought it up. It's a fairly straightforward stadium overall, but I do like this feature wall, I guess you'd call it. Displays a bit of artwork. Parc des Princes. It has one of the few bare concrete exteriors that is actually somewhat visually appealing. It was certainly ahead of its time at the time. It's contrasted by a vivid display of club colours and Parisian iconography. The Arc de Triomphe is looking especially good in seat form. One downside is the sizable gap between the field and the seats at the ends. Stadio da Luz. Now, if you're an Arsenal fan, you can actually squint and pretend that you're in the Champions League, because the Emirates was a bit of a copy and paste of this stadium's blueprint. In particular, the interior, and I can see why they'd want a stadium like this. That undulating seating bowl looks great. Stamford Bridge. It can't get you from one side of the river to the other, but unlike most bridges, it's a stadium. A compact, one-of-a-kind stadium with a unique design and history. I think it looks much better on the inside than the outside, especially like the West Stand. Quite beautiful actually. Stadio José Alvalade. It's a very loud stadium, and I'm talking more visually loud than audibly loud, although I'm sure it can be both. All of the seats used to match that mosaic exterior, but they've since been replaced. The more muted colour scheme nowadays does look a tad better, I suppose. Red Bull Arena. This not only shares its name with another stadium in the video, but it is effectively the same design as the next stadium you'll see. What is unique is that it's sat atop the previous stadium that occupied the site. They didn't even level it. The new seats are certainly looking vibrant, and yeah, cool stadium, needs more dragons. So in comes Stadio do Dragão. I cannot pronounce that, but it translates to Dragon Stadium. Considering that, you'd expect a design that's a little more flamboyant, maybe some flamethrowers here and there. But no, it's just an ever so slightly more elegant version of the last one. Things tend to look a bit more classy when it's not plastered with an energy drink logo. Parken. It tops the list of shortest names, but unfortunately I haven't really considered name length as part of the criteria. Personally, I just feel that name length isn't as important as people make it out to be. The design is one of a kind. It sorta has an individual stand on each side, so it's old school in that respect. There's also a retractable roof. Very interesting. Etihad Stadium. The stadium's design certainly catches your eye from afar, with that metallic exterior and those huge masts holding up the roof. As for the interior, well, it's a small detail, but the updated seats with the city branding has made a big difference. Much better than plain blue. Estadio Santiago Bernabéu. Firstly, I'm not a fan of this construction site aesthetic they've got going on. Not sure what they were thinking there. But no, it's hard to place a stadium that's still undergoing some major renovations. In its current state, I guess it's mid-table as far as the Champions League is concerned. Maybe a bit better. Allianz Stadium. It's not my favourite Italian stadium, but it certainly ranks highest in terms of its amenities. It's a nice exterior. There's no mistaking which country it's in with that tricolour everywhere. Well, it could be Mexico. And bonus points for that seat art. It's top notch. Obviously that matters very little during the match, but I still like to see it. Johan Cruyff Arena. Amsterdam is notoriously a destination for people wanting to get high, and one way they could do it is by climbing this stadium. It's probably the country's highest peak, very imposing. Just like San Siro, the translucent roof lets in plenty of light, which I feel like is important in these big concrete-heavy stadiums. Ibrox Stadium. We've seen some pretty flashy stadiums so far, but it's good to see some good old-fashioned Glaswegian brick and mortar. There's definitely still a place for it in this world of carbon fibre and paper straws. Despite its traditional design, it still has its fair share of modern amenities. I almost prefer it over Celtic Park. Hats off to Glasgow. It has the most Champions League stadiums per capita. Who needs a high life expectancy, am I right? Celtic Park might not have as much Glaswegian brickwork, but the more recent additions to the stadium, that being most of the stadium, is just that little bit more impressive than Ibrox. Signal Iduna Park. The home of Borussia Dortmund is the opposite of dormant. It often erupts. As for the design, well, they've done well to add some modern touches to this 70s stadium. I love those yellow beams everywhere. But even better is the yellow wall, which isn't quite as intimidating when converted into seating, but still, impressive. Allianz Arena. Although I do think it looks fine, I will admit that the stadium does kinda look like a mattress from some angles. But let's put that to bed because mattresses can't do this. The interior is also quite eye-catching. There's no mistaking who plays here. The Bayern mattress branding looks incredible. Stade Velodrome. It has a monochromatic yet very interesting exterior. From some angles it looks like a worm, and from other angles it looks more like one of those big buildings where people go and watch football. It definitely resembles the latter on the inside. The huge stands that are basically single-tiered form a massive uninterrupted wall of fans. Love it. Anfield. As I alluded to earlier, I'm a sucker for a grand brick facade, and the exterior of the main stand has one of the most aesthetically pleasing going round, combining modern and traditional styles perfectly. If all the stands were like the main stand, it would have been even higher, but that is not yet the case. The other three stands are more in line with the typical English football stadium. Stadio Metropolitano. Such a high placing is especially impressive when you consider the fact that the stadium wasn't built from scratch, but transformed from this piece of stadium. But I think that's part of the reason why I like it. The pre-existing main stand that was said to resemble a comb has given it that little bit of character. A lot of modern stadiums are missing that. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham doesn't get to be number one very often, and they are always reminded of that fact. So they went and built themselves what might be the best stadium in Europe to make themselves feel a little bit better. Like the last one, it not only has the modern amenities, but a bit of character. I never get tired of looking at the South Stand full of fans. So there you have it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.